You just walked out of your local bank branch on a quiet morning in 2026. The teller smiled at you, processed your deposit, and handed you a clean receipt. You feel a sense of security. You believe your hard-earned money is safe, growing steadily, and that the institution is looking out for your financial future. But what if I told you that the moment you handed over that cash, it stopped being yours? What if I told you that right now, as you listen to this, every dollar you have sitting in a traditional savings account is actually making you poorer? We live in a world where the financial rules have changed, yet most of us are still playing by a playbook from 30 years ago. Today, we are going to peel back the curtain on the banking industry and look at the raw truth that they would prefer you never understand. We are not talking about simple budgeting tips or how to save a few pennies on groceries. We are talking about the fundamental mechanics of money that are designed to harvest your wealth while you sleep. If you have ever felt like the system is rigged against you, or if you have wondered why your balance never seems to buy as much as it used to, you are not imagining it. The banking industry operates on principles that are almost the exact opposite of what they tell you in their glossy marketing brochures. Once you understand the real game being played in 2026, you will never look at a bank statement the same way again. Let us start with a reality check that most people find hard to swallow. Your bank account preserves your money, but it almost never grows your wealth. You might see a small amount of interest added to your balance every month. But let us do the math that the banks hope you never calculate. In 2026, the average savings account pays a fraction of 1% in interest annually. Meanwhile, the real cost of living, including food, energy, and housing, continues to climb at a much faster rate. If inflation is at 3 or 4%, and your bank is paying you 0.5%, you are losing money every single day. That $1,000 you saved 5 years ago can buy significantly less today. Your bank did not mention that when you opened the account, did they? Banks design these accounts for safety and convenience, not for building wealth. They want your money to be there for your rent or your groceries, which is valuable. But if you leave significant cash there for years, you are playing a game you cannot win. The bank knows this, and they are counting on the fact that you do not. This leads us to the most fascinating part of the business. While your money earns almost nothing, your bank is making a fortune off of it. When you deposit money, you are essentially giving the bank a very cheap loan. They take that loan and immediately lend it to other people at much higher rates. They lend it out at 5, 10, or even 25% interest for credit cards. The difference between what they pay you and what they charge others is their profit margin, and it is massive. Your checking account balance is literally becoming someone else's mortgage or car loan. This system is how modern economies function. But the banks are not exactly advertising this relationship, but it goes even deeper than just moving existing money around. In 2026, banks actually create new money through a process called fractional reserve banking. When a bank makes a loan, they do not take that exact cash out of a vault. They simply create a new deposit in the borrower's account while keeping your original deposit intact on paper. If you deposit $1,000, the bank can use that as a foundation to generate much more in the system. Back in 2020, the Federal Reserve quietly changed the reserve requirement to 0%. Legally, they do not have to keep any of your deposit waiting for you in a vault. Your hard work becomes the base for a digital pyramid of debt. Now, let us talk about the product that banks love more than anything else: credit cards. They market them as tools for convenience and rewards, and they are, if you use them perfectly. But the banks do not make their billions from the people who pay their balance in full every month. In the industry, those people are actually called deadbeats. It sounds harsh, but it is true, because you are using their infrastructure for free and taking their rewards. The customers they truly love are the ones who carry a balance month after month. When you carry a balance at an interest rate of 24%, you are paying a massive premium for the privilege of owing money. A $5,000 balance at 20% interest means you are handing over $1,000 a year in pure profit to the bank. This is why your mailbox is constantly full of pre-approved offers. They are not hoping you will be responsible. They are hoping you will get comfortable with the debt. They want you to see that monthly payment as a normal part of life rather than a drain on your future. The interest rate you pay is not a random number either. It is a calculated assessment of your risk. Banks look at your history and your assets to decide how much they can charge you. The irony of the system is that the more money you have, the less it costs you to borrow. If you have a perfect record and significant assets, the bank offers you the lowest rates because they know they will get their money back. But if you are struggling, they charge you more to compensate for the potential risk. The system is designed to make it more expensive to be poor and cheaper to be wealthy. This brings us to a strategy that the ultra-wealthy use that would make most people's heads spin. While regular people are taught to fear debt and pay it off as fast as possible, the wealthy use debt to get even richer. Imagine you own $1 million in stocks that are growing at 10% per year. If you need $200,000, you do not sell the stock. Selling would trigger a massive tax bill. Instead, you go to the bank and borrow the money using your stock as collateral. The bank gives you a low interest rate, perhaps 5%, because the loan is backed by your assets. Now, you are paying 5% interest while your stocks are still growing at 10%. You are effectively being paid 5% to borrow money. And since you never sold the stock, you never paid a single dollar in capital gains taxes. This is how the elite maintain their lifestyle without ever showing a high income on paper. Banks love these customers because they are nearly zero risk. Meanwhile, the same bank might be charging you 22% on a credit card because you do not have that $1 million collateral. It is a parallel financial system that most people do not even know exists. Let us look at another pillar of the banking dream, the 30-year mortgage. We're told that buying a home is the ultimate goal and that a mortgage is good debt. But when you look at the math of 2026, the reality is quite different. When you take out a $300,000 mortgage at 7%, you are not just buying a house. Over 30 years, you will end up paying over $700,000 in total. The bank makes $400,000 in interest just for letting you buy an asset that you have to maintain, insure, and pay taxes on. The most frustrating part is how the payments are structured. In the first 10 years, almost every dollar you pay goes toward interest rather than the house itself. You could make payments for 8 years and still owe nearly 90% of the original loan. Banks structure it this way intentionally, so they get their profit first. They want you to refinance every few years, which resets the clock and keeps you in that interest-heavy phase of the loan. They are not being kind by offering you a smooth application process. They are opening a door to a 30-year profit stream. And if you try to pay it off early, they do not celebrate your success. In fact, some loans even have penalties for paying off the principal too quickly because it destroys their profit model. Now, consider the concept of confidence. The entire global banking system rests on a single psychological factor. As long as we all believe our money is there, the system works. But if everyone decided to withdraw their cash on the same day, the system would collapse instantly. This is why banks spend billions of dollars on their image. The heavy stone columns, the expensive furniture, and the professional suits are all part of a theater. It is designed to project an image of absolute stability and permanence. They want you to feel like the bank is a fortress. But in reality, it is a highly leveraged business that depends on your continued trust. When that trust breaks, as we have seen in history, the government often has to step in to save the institutions. But who pays for those bailouts? Ultimately, it is the taxpayers and the depositors through inflation and fees. The system is set up so that the banks keep the profits when times are good, but the public shares the losses when things go wrong. In 2026, regulations have become more complex, but the costs are always passed down to you. Every new compliance requirement becomes a reason for a new fee or a lower interest rate on your savings. You are paying for the very rules that are supposed to protect you. One of the most silent ways they take your money is through foreign exchange and hidden transaction fees. Every time you buy something from another country or travel abroad, the bank takes a cut. They might say there is a 3% fee, but they also give you an exchange rate that is slightly worse than the market rate. They buy the currency at wholesale prices and sell it to you at retail prices. It is a massive profit center that most people never even notice on their statements. They assume they are getting the fair market price, but they are actually paying a premium on every single transaction. The most powerful weapon the banks have is financial illiteracy. Our schools do not teach us how the monetary system actually works. They teach us how to balance a checkbook, but not how fractional reserve banking creates money out of thin air. They encourage us to save, but they do not explain how inflation destroys the value of those savings. Banks love an uninformed customer because they are easy to harvest. An informed customer asks about the net interest margin. An informed customer shops around for better rates and avoids high-interest debt. The complexity of bank terms and conditions is not an accident. It is written in a way that discourages you from reading it. Most people just sign the papers and trust that the institution has their best interests at heart. But a bank is a corporation with shareholders to satisfy. Their primary goal is to maximize profit, not to make you wealthy. Understanding these secrets is the first step toward taking back your power in 2026. You do not have to stop using banks entirely, as they provide essential services for modern life, but you should use them strategically. Use them for what they are good at: safety, payments, and convenience. But do not look to them as the foundation of your wealth building. Move your long-term savings into assets that have the potential to outpace inflation. Educate yourself on how to use debt the way the wealthy do, as a tool for growth rather than a weight around your neck. Be the customer that the bank considers a deadbeat because you pay zero interest and take all their rewards. When you walk into a bank branch now, you should see it for what it really is. It is not a public service. It is a marketplace where your wealth is the product being traded. Knowledge is the only defense you have in this game. The more you understand the mechanics of how money moves, the better equipped you are to keep more of it for yourself. Do not let your hard work fund someone else's luxury while you struggle to keep up with the cost of living. Take control of your financial destiny by seeing through the bank matrix. The rules of 2026 are clear for those who are willing to look. You can either be a resource for the system, or you can learn to make the system work for you. The choice is yours. If you found this perspective valuable, share it with someone who needs to hear the truth about their savings. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and always look beyond the glossy brochures. Your financial future depends on what you do today. Thank you for listening.